raw and unscripted. KSU. Quick, tactical conversations from the heart of the power sports industry. In this business, time is torque. So hit the ignition, twist the throttle, and let's fire it up.
Mark Sheffield, what are we on? Week 5?
I thought it was like 27 or 28.
It seems that way, but week 5, let's wrap up metrics that matter. Let's go to the parts department. Give us the metrics that matter in the parts department, everyone's favorite on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. What matters most, Mark?
Ooh, good one. Margin, I think, is something that most dealers like to keep an eye on. So how are we doing in that parts department? You know, that's driven down by a lot of things, especially discounting. Probably the biggest impediment we have to making good money in that department. Do we have a good sales path where every customer who buys a vehicle from the dealership is actually getting a chance to meet somebody in the parts and accessory department?
I forgot the pod clock. We just started the pod clock, so we got a few extra bonus seconds here, Mark. That's a good thing.
Oh, great. Beep. So, you know, I think one of the other things that come across still with a lot of dealers is that the parts and accessory department is discounting automatically to the sales department and to the service department. And there really is no reason to do that anymore. You know, a lot of times dealers kind of have this thought process that, you know, hey, if a customer buys from us that, you know, they should get a discount on everything. But, you know, the reality is it costs a lot of money to run that dealership. You want to make good money in those departments so you can staff them up with well-trained employees. And to just automatically give everybody a 10% or 15% discount. And I think the crazy thing about that is that when the parts department is giving those discounts to the sales department, that's not extra money that the sales department is making. We're just passing that discount on directly to the consumer. So we're not even helping the dealership out. The only thing you're really doing is taking money out of the parts department that, you know, allows you the ability to afford good employees who can offer a good level of customer service. I would also
go ahead. No,
your
please
turn.
Finish.
No, your turn.
I was just gonna say the parts department being profitable and giving those discounts, like you said back when we were talking F&I, right? You eliminate every single department should be profitable, make its own money standing on its own, right? I mean, what's the difference? I'm losing my train of thought here. What I'll rattle off is some quarter 3 numbers. We just came out with our benchmark numbers. Quarter 3 profit for the parts department, gross margin profit, we're at 29%. These are hot off the press. Quarter 3, we're going to be releasing these next week. So 29% for gross margin percentage in the parts department. What do you think about that number?
I think it's a little bit weak. You know, I think as a industry, power sports, we should probably be making a little bit more money than that. So I think to me, that's pretty evident that there is some discounting going on. And you've also got a lot of dealers who only do their OBS write-downs at the end of the year. So that hasn't even hit at this point in time. So we could lose another point or two out of that before we get to the end of the year. You know, if I was a dealer and my gross margin in parts was below 30 points, I'd really be digging into utilizing the discount reports and Lightspeed. And, you know, let's figure out exactly where that's going on. You know, a lot of dealers, when I go in and visit, you know, you'll look at the settings in Lightspeed and every employee in the parts department will have access to discounting. And if they've got that, they'll use it every time.
A couple other metrics I want to rattle off here. Average profit per invoice, just under $53, $52.91 for quarter 3. Average dollars per invoice, $185. And then, which I want you to dig into a little bit here, the percentage of an RO made up of part sales, 40.32%. So that is the formula is total part sales divided by total labor sales plus total parts sales, 40.32%. Dig into that one a little bit for us, Mark.
I think essentially what you're saying is for every dollar in labor that you sell, we've got 42 cents in parts that are going on repair orders. I think
right.
where you need to be careful on that metric is that, you know, for a lot of dealers, 50%, maybe even a little bit more of the work that they're doing in service is just in support of the sales department. So we're just prepping and building units. Maybe we're bolting on a few accessories here. And if you don't truly have a customer pay service department, if you're not truly in that game, then that ratio is going to be low because a lot of the work that you're doing doesn't really involve any parts or accessories. If you're prepping a ATV or getting a motorcycle ready, what are you putting on it? A license plate frame, maybe a couple of gallons of gas, some cherries on the license plate. We're not really doing a whole lot there. So what you may want to do if that number or that ratio is low for you is just look at where are you at on customer pay only repair orders. So let's just look at customers who come in the door who are paying us for service work or upsells. Let's see what that ratio is like there. And let's see, are we above at least 70%? 10 years ago, when we started talking about this, we used to talk about 1-to-1, but a lot of dealers have dramatically increased their labor rates over the last 10 years. And so I'm not sure that 1-to-1 ratio is still a valid number for dealers to shoot for. But when you look at some of the top dealers in the country, 80% is definitely achievable.
It's great information. What else in the parts department? We got about a minute left. What else is important to track, to train on, to make sure you have a good stance in your dealership? What metrics matter the most for the parts department?
Big ones right now, I would say, is having the parts manager and the owner looking at OBS on a monthly basis. So what inventory do we have that's just hitting 12 months that's, going to die on the shelf? It's going to sit there for the next 10 years unless we do something with it. So what can we do with those pieces? Can we return them? Can we discount them? Can we wholesale them? What can we do to make that stuff go away? And then the other one we adopted earlier this year in our parts department is every Tuesday morning, our parts manager runs an open special order and an open layaway list. And those are divided up by the individual parts people, hands that out. And then over the course of the week, every morning she sits down with one of those employees and they've got to go through every open special order and every open layaway that they've got and explain why it's still open. If there's a back order, what are we doing to find that part? If the customer just hasn't come to pick it up, what are we doing to get that customer to come in and take possession of that piece?
That's a good practice. I like that. The pod
works
clock
good.
has spoken. We're out of time on the parts department. Next week, we'll be wearing the same thing because we're going to be recording 2 episodes today because we have busy schedules. We're talking Q&A, the questions that we've gotten, at least a few of the questions we've gotten over the last couple of weeks. So see you next week. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate you riding with us on Raw and Unscripted. KSU. We'll be back next week with more ways to rev up your dealership success. Until next time, keep the throttle wide.